Hello, it's going to be hard for you to sit back and relax this week as there has been so much MLS action. But you're going to have to try your best to sit back and relax. This is TCB MLS. So, with so much action, we will start straight away. Zlatan, that's week 5. Well, basically it was. In the first ever El Tráfico, Zlatan came off the bench to score 2 goals and help LA Galaxy overcome a 3-0 deficit against LAFC. I watched the whole game as I bought a Sky Pass to watch it, and boy, was it worth it. It was such a game, and even my dad could hear that I was enjoying the game so much upstairs on my computer. And if you haven't seen the game or any of the highlights, please do check them out, because it could have been the MLS game of the season. I'm going to say that this early on. The whole game was packed full of action, with Carlos Vela lighting up the first half with 2 superb goals. And then, of course, Ibrahimovic took the limelight at the end with an absolute screamer of a goal. And, of course, he did score the winner as well. And you could have written the script for that. It was just written in the stars, I think. You just couldn't have not seen Zlatan coming on and scoring. I think as soon as he came on, you just had that feeling deep down inside that he was actually going to score. And I would say now that not only is it LA Galaxy welcome to Zlatan, but it's MLS welcome to Zlatan and America welcome to Zlatan. He's just crazy how good he was in that game. I could talk about this game for the whole show and the whole podcast due to the sheer immenseness of the match, but we have 3 other weeks of MLS action to get through. Elsewhere in week 5, there was another 4-3 in the MLS as Orlando beat New York Red Bulls in a highly end-to-end game, with Orlando's new signing Dom Dwyer making his new club fans very happy as he scored 2 goals in the game. Week 5 also saw the respective conference leaders at the time battle, where Columbus Crew lost 2-1 to Vancouver Whitecaps at home. And seeing that we mentioned him last week, the ex-Swansea player Giovanni Savarese, the Portland Timber manager, side drew against Chicago, with both teams at the time not being able to pick up their first wins of the season. Oh, and how can I not mention, I think we should actually have a new feature on the show, which is the most ridiculous ways to get sent off. Of course, last week it was, 3 weeks ago, I think, when the podcast came out, Olam was sent off for a Maradona-esque handball, and this week it's Leardom for Seattle Sounders, as he got sent off for a slap of Lovitz when the Seattle Sounders faced Montreal, and the game actually ended 1-0 to Montreal, with Remy Gard getting another win under his belt for Montreal. I think that might have been their first win, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but he's doing alright, Remy Gard. On to week 6, and we're gonna again, I know this might seem on, but Giovanni Savarese, Portland Timber, they almost got their first win in the MLS against Orlando. However, Orlando once again got a high-scoring victory, with a game ending 3-2 Orlando. This was a game in which Blanco for the Portland Timbers was sent off for a dive after a second yellow card, but for it to subsequently be overruled by VAR. Elsewhere in week 6, LA Galaxy, after their win against LAFC, could not follow it up with another win as they lost to Kansas City 2-0, with Johnny Russell one of the players on the score sheet for Kansas. And it wasn't great for the other LA side, LAFC, as they lost 5-0 to Atlanta United. The way Atlanta play is just so pleasing on the eye. If you want to watch a video about their tactics, I saw one the other day, and I would suggest watching it. It was by Chifo. There's a link in the description, and it's about a 3-minute video talking about how tactically astute they are and how they manage to get the ball up the pitch so quickly and how attacking they are. It's a brilliant video, and it highlights to me how MLS is on the rise, and it's actually a very tactically astute league. I would definitely go watch it if you haven't already seen it. Oh, and another little bit of quick thing to note: why are all the players turning their hair silver? I mean, not all, there's a bit of an exaggeration, but the amount of players I've seen in the MLS where having silver hair is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't think I would suit silver hair. I mean, I've got shaggy brown hair, and I don't know if turning that silver would be that great. But Joseph Martinez seemed to be rocking it, as he was the latest player to sport the look. Well, that was week 6. I know I feel like I'm going through this quite fast, but there's been just so much action that I'm having to rattle through this week. And now on to week 7, VAR. Now, we've talked about this on the main podcast, which can be found, of course, on our channel, but VAR has seemed to be working reasonably successfully in the MLS so far, with many decisions being overturned in good timings by the referee, who are not hesitant or to use it if they're unsure. For example, it was used in week 7 match where Atlanta United took on New York City FC to disallow a goal from Nagby, who it was an amazing strike for Atlanta after there was some interference from Martinez, who was blocking Son Johnson, the New York City FC keeper, and he was in an offside position at the time. So sadly it was disallowed, but it was correctly disallowed using VAR. And this does raise the debate of VAR again, as of course it will be used during the World Cup, and it is now being successfully used in 2 major footballing leagues, the Serie A and MLS, and it highlights what is the FA doing so wrong in the implementation of VAR? It's being used successfully elsewhere. Why can't it be used successfully here? This may have to be a topic for the main podcast, but I think the MLS only shows that it could be used, and I'll definitely mention that if we do a section on the main podcast about that. Anyways, back to the game. In the game that I'm talking about, Atlanta United ended up sharing the points with New York City as the game ended 2-2. DC United picked up their first win in the MLS this season, and they are still no home ground yet, but I think they're moving into their new ground in the next couple of weeks, or they might have already done this when this podcast comes out. They managed to get a 1-0 victory against a similar side to Atlanta in the way that they set themselves up tactically in the way that they're so tactically astute. And I think there's another video by Tifo, which again will be in the description, describing their tactics, which is Columbus Crew's tactics. Of course, because DC beat Columbus Crew. Steve Clark, the DC United goalkeeper, played a big hand, excuse the pun, in presuming their 1-0 victory that they got after a Segura goal, as DC United did make it hard for themselves after they went down to 10 men. Also, again, I think that decision for the sending off was VAR. I'm not sure. Could be, could not. But definitely there was a lot of decisions when I was watching the highlights using VAR. That might have been one of them, I'm not sure. Elsewhere, Toronto, who had recently made it to the CONCACAF final, which we'll be talking about later, made 10 changes for their visit to Colorado, and they did pay the price for making so many changes as they lost 2-0. I don't know if this is going to be a recurring thing, but I have to mention that Portland Timbers and Giovanni Savarese did get their first win as they beat Minnesota 3-2 at home. Lastly, week 8. A quick little bit of note about week 8. Every shirt that was played in by the MLS teams in week 8 was made from recycled plastic, which I thought was a really nice touch by the MLS, and I hope maybe the Premier League or the Football League could use that maybe to do it maybe next season or the end of this season, because it's a brilliant idea, really. Montreal Impact have a blimming bell at the ground. I mean, one of those big bells that rings, you know, the ones, and they ring it when they score. I mean, that's I mean, that's something to get your head around, but that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a massive bell just in the stadium. It's crazy. Sorry, I'm going off topic here, but that's crazy. I know we're supposed to be talking about Week 8, but when I was looking at the highlights, I saw this bell that Montreal Impact had, and it just blew my mind. Anyways, I saw it when Montreal Impact were playing LAFC, which was a very good match to watch, and it saw a free kick being scored by ex-Montreal player and current captain of LAFC, Simon, score an absolute wonder. It was just brilliant. His free kick just glided past the keeper, and it was just brilliant. I mean, I watched it on Twitter, I think by accident, and probably half of the time I was watching it, at least like 50 times. It's just one of those goals that you just keep on wanting to see. You need to check it out. It was just brilliant. The game did end 5-3 to LAFC. Sorry, I got my words muddled there. In the end, which was good for LAFC as they had gone on a kind of a bit of a purple patch. It was good to see them back on their way. Johnny Russell is on fire. I mean, someone call the fire brigade and put Johnny Russell out because he is hot at the moment. Hot, hot, hot. The match where Kansas City, Sporting Kansas City beat Vancouver 6-0, saw Johnny Russell score a hat-trick and also be involved in a brawl that occurred during the match where 2 Vancouver players were sent off. It was just a Johnny Russell match, and he's been brilliant this season so far, and it's been amazing to see him do so well because he was a championship player and he's doing so well in the MLS at the moment, and I hope his form continues. No bias here, no bias of course, but come on, Johnny Russell. And just to kind of round up kind of Week 8, it saw 46 goals, which is a joint record, I think, in the MLS for goals in one kind of week. MLS has been so exciting so far this season. It was really hard to fit in all the games and kind of talk about them, so I've tried to talk about the big games and kind of highlight anything I think is funny or is interesting of note. So I hope I haven't gone too quickly. If I have, maybe tell me about it and I'll try and focus on maybe a smaller amount of games but focus on more in detail. Or if you like my kind of quick roundup, tell me about it because I don't mind either way. All of this, of course, has meant that New York City and Atlanta United FC are first and second, respectively, in the Eastern Conference, whilst Sporting Kansas City are the early runaway leaders in the Western Conference. I know it's a bit weird, the Western Conference, seeing that they're in the East, really, of America, but you know how it works. You've got to kind of even it out. With 17 points. The current top scorer is Joseph Martinez for Atlanta with 6 goals. So the grey hair thing, or the silver hair, should I say, should be working wonders for him in the end, I guess. Toronto! I can't finish a podcast without mentioning Toronto FC's agonising defeat in the CONCACAF Champions League final against Chivas Guadalajara, which is basically the equivalent of the European Champions League in North America. I managed to watch the 2 legs, highlights at least, straight after they happened, and it was so agonising to watch. So devastating. They lost at home 2-1, and they played so well in that game in the first leg, but managed to win 2-1 away in Guadalajara, which is a massive victory for them in the end. But it went straight to penalties. I guess in the CONCACAF Champions League there's no extra time, so it just went straight to penalties. And they lost on penalties to Chivas Guadalajara. Bradley and Osorio, the local boy, who have been so prolific and so good in the Champions League this season, missed their penalties. And all I can say is I hope they're proud of what they have achieved and what they have done for Canada and the MLS, because they've done them proud in getting so far. And they shouldn't feel guilty for missing their penalties, as they've done so much in getting Toronto to the final in the first place. It would have been so good if they did manage to win it, but I think we just got to treat this as a victory for the MLS and a victory for North American football, because it shows that teams can be competing with the powerhouse that is the Mexican clubs such as Chivas, Guadalajara, and hopefully next time round, if there's a MLS team at that stage, they can win it, because it'll be amazing to see. This wraps up all the action. I think my throat has gone very dry, my mouth's gone very dry from all this speaking. It's time to reveal last week's question answer, though, so I must get on with a dry throat and dry mouth, with or without, you get what I mean. The question was, which MLS teams are on the road route 66? Now, I didn't get any responses for this, but that's fine. Maybe you just didn't know. The teams are Chicago Fire, LA Galaxy, and LAFC. So if you did get that right and you didn't want to say, please do say next time, because it'd be nice for me to see that you're listening, and it'd be nice for me to kind of know if you know, because I kind of like doing the little questions bit at the end. The question this week, well, it's going to sound like I'm a bit obsessed with him, but which team did Giovanni Savarese, the current Portland Timbers manager, what team did he manage last before he was the manager of Portland Timbers? As always, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your evening. I hope you have enjoyed the podcast. I'll see you in 3 weeks at the same time at 10 PM GMT. Peace out.